All right, so now we're there. We're live. We're at the right spot, and Dustin Jacoby's taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu, this one at 205 pounds. And when I was kind of trying to think about this one in a vacuum, I tend to pick Dustin Jacoby to win all of his fights. Go back and watch the videos. I picked Dustin Jacoby to win. And I do not pick Kennedy Nzechukwu to win fights. And what's happened lately? Well, Dustin loses that close split decision to Khalil Roundtree. Everybody and their dog that watched the fight thought that Jacoby had won. Roundtree gets the decision. Jacoby goes out against a professional, Azamat Murzakanov. Murzakanov's an absolute buzzsaw. He's ranked now. I wasn't necessarily on board, and we know how that fight turned out. Murzakanov gets the knockdown. I thought maybe it was a little bit of a fluke against Clark, even though I watched all the tape on Murzakanov, and I liked him coming into the UFC. It's a long story, and I'm here by myself on a late night Wednesday night talking to you about this fight. But for Jacoby, maybe he's lost a step. Or maybe not. I mean, light heavyweight, you can get pretty old. I mean, 40-year-old Jan Blachowicz had a close fight against 36-year-old Alex Pereira. So we got to pump the brakes there a little bit on the ageism when it comes to these guys. But when you look at this matchup, Kennedy looks like he's found his groove. And we've all seen the performances. I know he has 3 losses, but we could even go down through some of his wins as well. The Paul Craig loss wasn't really on in some spots. The Darko Stosic win. We got that win because Stosic had, point deduction or point deductions. The fight against Carlos Ulberg, loses the first round handily, rallies in the second. Danilo Marquez, the perseverance of, just like Derek Lewis, just get up. And that was what he was able to do. Dawoon Jung, in tight, got finished, wasn't a good look. Nikolai mixed it up with the wrestling, but most people had thought that Kennedy won that fight. And now you have Carl Robertson, where Kennedy looked great. Kutsalaba, where he rallied out of, some of the bad positions, but, Kennedy looked amazing. Kennedy really looked good his last time out against Devin Clark. So now all of a sudden, Nzechukwu's on this big swing up, a great uptick, and Jacoby's not really at the best part of his career. For Jacoby, we know the glory lineage. We know, again, Canadians, taking on Simon Marcus over there in kickboxing. We know how good of a striker Jacoby is, and he strings his shots together, and he can throw in combination, and he can pitter-patter switch his stances. I know I have him listed as orthodox, and I have Kennedy listed as southpaw, but when you look at a fight like this, like, if Kennedy's on, and he's zoned in, and Saif Soud's just yelling those directions, think about the coaching in this fight. You have Mark Montoya out of Factory X. You have Saif Soud, 2 of the greatest minds in coaching. Texas versus Colorado, going at it. And you've had fighters mix it up between these 2 gyms, in the past as well. So I think this is an awesome fight. But when you look at this one, for Kennedy, if he's on, then the pick's Kennedy. Dustin Jacoby's pretty well on in most of his fights, and he had the threat of the wrestling to contend with in the combat sambo of Azamat Murzakanov. And I remember talking about Murzakanov in his fight against Iwan Kutsalaba. A lot of Kutsalaba references because a lot of these guys have fought him at light heavyweight. Bozer fight as well. But when you look at Azamat taking on Kutsalaba in combat sambo, it's done with the striking. You saw the striking that he was able to implement against Jacoby. So I think this is an awesome fight. Anthony Smith saying a brawler versus glory kickboxer. I lean towards the pro kickboxer in this one. Kennedy's not a brawler, though. He can strike very well on the outside. And as you can see from the card there, 83-inch reach. Like, that is absolutely crazy. So he's got 7-inch reach advantage. He's got the height advantage. But the counter to that is, well, does he use it? Not necessarily, because he was in a phone booth or in tight, close quarters against Dawoon Jung, and it wasn't getting it done. Fight high, closest opponent, Jacoby, was Dawoon Jung. We know how that ended. So do I buy into the hype now? Am I convinced? Because I haven't been throughout the entire time that we made these videos. If you toss me a like in this one, it'd be appreciated. It's been an hour and 12 minutes of talking straight. I do have a tough time with this one. So it will be interesting to see what we get out of both these guys. Again, from Kennedy, last couple of times out, he was favored to beat Devin Clark. Yeah, against Iwan Kutsalaba, he was favored. He got a performance of the night bonus. He was favored to beat Carl Robertson. And in this matchup against Dustin Jacoby, wouldn't you know it, Kennedy Nzechukwu favored to get the win. Taking on a guy in a 2-fight losing streak. But again, look at it through rose-colored lenses a bit. The votes on Tapology, 1,850 of them, 71% going with Nzechukwu, 64% by knockout for the 29% that have Jacoby, 67% by knockout. Both these guys have pretty darn good, striking from the outside. But if you do consider it, both guys have pretty good volume. And where I was going with it was, both guys have decent cardio as well. So I do like that out of it. Kyle, can I get a summary of your picks by the end? Sorry, I just tuned in. Kyle, I do that on question mark kicks, but if this is your first time tuning in, I thank you. People skip to the picks anyway, and they don't give a hot frig about what I say. So, yeah, if I do that, then nobody watches at all, and I might as well just write them all down and close up shop. I know that Matt in this one has Kennedy Nzechukwu to get a win in this one. Maybe that this will get hot frig trending on X. I never thought I'd say that. I'm going to go with Kennedy Nzechukwu in this one as well, but yeah, I do have a hard time because I always pick Jacoby and I never pick Nzechukwu, and these fights like this, I do have a hard time racking my brain on it. So some awesome fights in this one. Kyle, the Blue Jays jerseys keep me tuned in. I appreciate that from you. Yeah, it's an actual Charlie Montoyo jersey, if you can believe that. It was one of those team-issued ones. I couldn't pass on it. Not a big fan of John Schneider, who's doing the damn thing with the Jays right now, but they did get a win today. Let us know what you have. We got the co-main, the main event coming up. You are not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fighting Apex, we always say. Let's get into it.